So Rick, you're in a movie theater, but in deep space. You're trying to get to cryosleep. You're trying to escape your shitty life of indentured servitude to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Tell me your ordeal.
Sometimes the gods are looking out for you and you just don't want to pay attention. You want to do shit on your own. And it's an ordeal to get to an experience. Yesterday I planned on seeing Fede Alvarez's newest entry in the Alien saga, Alien Romulus. And I bought my ticket online, matinee show. I wanted to do it, and I was actually kind of excited. I was actually very excited because I had liked his take on Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell's Evil Dead, but there was a little bit of trepidation. It was like, you know, you're dealing with something that is basically iconic, and you start to wonder how the mythology is going to be played with. I drove to the AMC near my mom's house, and I sat in I was the only person in the theater. Eventually, 2 more people showed up, and we're waiting, and I had gotten there just in time for the previews to start. And I can hear the previews playing in the theater, but there's no image, nothing on the screen. The lights are still on. And I'm hearing what are basically commercials, and I'm starting to think to myself, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. So I go outside, I tell them the problem. Then I'm told we're just having a little bit of problem with the projector. So I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. I've been drinking a lot of coffee. I've been trying to get my head together just so that I can finish, dedicate my time to these episodes in the way that I feel that the show is owed, the listeners are owed, you, my partner, are owed. And I'm told projector's out. So the 2 hours that I was planning on watching this movie, I'm fucked. I can't enjoy it. I can't partake in this experience. So I'm sitting here asking myself, how should we do this? Should I call this fool up and ask him to forget about it and we'll do it another time? I found another theater near my house, but all the showings were either sold out, but they weren't sold out, but it's crazy. The theaters now are so small that there are a limited number of good seats. Have you noticed that? Do you see that when you're in a theater?
I mean, I went during a matinee, so it was the same. I had basically the same experience of yours, but like good.
Mm-hmm.
So my seats, I got like good seats, and there was nobody else in my row. There was no one around me.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Okay. All right. Well, I ended up having to go see the 10 o'clock show. So what was supposed to be an 11 o'clock, 11:30, 12 o'clock show, now I have to put off till 10 o'clock. I'm fucked up. I'm tired. My head hurts. And when I say the gods are looking out for me, the gods are looking out for me because this is not a movie that I should be going to see. I'm not heeding the warning. I finally make it. I put the dog down. I drive over there. I sit down. I watch this movie. And you know what? It starts off great.
It's what now? I'm having a hard time.
You having a hard time hearing me? Okay.
Interjecting right now too.
I got you. Let me see. We any better now? Can you hear me okay now?
No.
Let me call you right back and we'll edit this, okay?
All right.
Hold on. All right, am I coming in okay now?
Yeah, you're coming in good. Look, I say we're close enough that. Do you mind just starting over?
Yeah, let's go. Let's start over.
Um, yeah. Well, do you know what happened?
No, it's the
I was
Zoom.
I was having to fucking switch you to speaker
Mm-hmm.
to try to hear you,
Mm.
and then when I would speak, I would switch back so that
Yeah, that's
hopefully it
not
wouldn't.
gonna be doable.
Yeah. Um. So all right, let's start over.
Go ahead.
All right. So this is take fucking 9. All right, Rick. So you're in a movie theater in deep space. You're RickRamos trying to get to cryo sleep. RickRamos trying to escape a shitty life of indentured servitude to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. RickRamos, tell me your ordeal.
I think ordeal is the right word for this. I mean, it's a simple story. I mean, I make plans to go see this movie. I got to take care of the dog. I got to put him down, get him some rest, and I'm excited about this movie. I'm really kind of Fede Alvarez, the director of this. I don't know if you'd call it a reboot, but a new entry in the Alien canon, a film that exists somewhere between 79's Ridley Scott film and 86's James Cameron film, somewhere during that period. And I was really excited based on the work that Fede Alvarez had done on the Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell remake of Evil Dead. I mean, that was exceptionally well done, and much different than either Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. Much different film, and somebody who seemed to have a handle on at least a cinematic vocabulary and an ability to create something that was both exciting and tension filled. So I was thinking that this might be a good partnership. I get to the theater and I can hear the previews playing. I can hear the commercials. I can hear that fucking Nicole Kidman bullshit commercial, but there's no image. I go down. I should have known. I should have known these were the gods looking out for me, telling me that this was not going to be a good experience and probably something that I should skip. But I have a duty to the show, the audience, and you, my partner, to push through this shit, see the movies, and to come at it objectively. Well, the movie didn't play, and what was supposed to be a noon screening, something that I had planned for, something that I was awake for, and I was ready to go. I was coffeeed up and ready to take this dive into space. The movie got canceled, so I ended up having to come home and basically considered asking you to postpone this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up scheduling a 10 o'clock show, which I knew I was going to be tired.
10 p.m.
10 p.m., yeah. 10 p.m., which means, with fucking almost 40 minutes worth of commercials, wasn't going to happen till 10:30.
That's your bedtime.
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, I'm an old man now, and I don't have the wherewithal to stay up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning like I once did. I don't burn that candle anymore the way that the younger man once did. But the warning was there, and I went to see it, and I sat down in an almost empty theater. The first theater was practically empty, 2 other people in there, and you could write that off as a Wednesday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon screening. But this was a Tuesday night screening, 10 p.m. equally as empty, maybe 4 other people in the theater. And I sat there and I watched it, and I got excited right from the get-go. There was something about the way Alvarez's production was in keeping with what the original film was going to be, or what the original film was. And that's always something that kind of bothers me when you watch like a film shot in the 70s, a sci-fi film that's shot in the 70s, and the sequel or a reimagining of it that is a prequel or somewhere in that time period is done because of the technology, because of the advanced technology of filmmaking and what can be imagined on screen. Prequels usually look more modern, or at least more advanced, and that's something that's always bothered me. This film didn't do that. This film went back to the original lights and motherboards that were really captivating in the original Ridley Scott film. So I kind of got excited. I kind of got to the point where I was like, wow. But slowly, it became something else. It became something where I realized it was paint by numbers, and it was an attempt to make it as youthful as possible. And that was the moment when I realized I was in trouble. So the movie, I mean, you could make a movie with a youthful cast that could tackle this story and do it convincingly, but there was a level of prettiness on screen, dirty prettiness, grimy kind of let's dirty up these models and put them in this situation where all I could think of was Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton in the original film. And immediately I was taken out of it. Immediately I had a problem. And from that point on, it was just one mistake after another with this film. And it's one of the great, I gotta say, it's one of the great disappointments of my recent movie watching experience, especially seeing as how I think the last film that I saw in a theater might have been Furiosa. And you know how we felt about that. You know how it's exactly, it's like you want to do it right versus an obvious and blatant pandering to an audience. This was, once again, not horrible, incredibly well made, but just embarrassingly obvious and boring for the most part. There were a lot of problems I had with this movie, but I'm interested in hearing your opinion because you seem to like it a hell of a lot more than me, and I'm not sure if you actually, is this a good film that you enjoyed, or is this a bad film that you had a good time with, or did you admire certain things that made you overlook its deficiencies? I'm really interested in your take on this.
All right. So was it a good film that I enjoyed? Two, was it a bad film that I had a good time with? And what was the third one?
I can't remember. Got to listen to the tape. Let's ask Mother.
Or were there things that I really admired about it?
Yes. That could make you overlook what was bad about it.
Well, see, I have an issue with that third one because you're loading it. You're loading the question with something that as if it for sure has something bad.
Well, I thought it was. I think I can point to a number of things in it that were bad.
Well, then I want to hear those. I want to hear those. But
well,
before we get into that run, like I just want to give you my reaction. We just keep going back and forth.
Sure.
So my day was not that. So I got up, did what I needed to do. I did the matinee thing as well, but luckily for me, everything fucking worked.
Yeah.
Got a coffee, got a fucking got the seat. I was by myself. I fucking virtually by myself in the theater as well. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then previews the new Gladiator that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I said, all right, I'm interested. Denzel looks interesting. I'm interested in this. Preview for fucking Nosferatu, Eggers' new film that's coming out.
That looked interesting. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see, a lot of the Herzog.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, cool. We're starting off like, all right, you know, what we did the Alien thing at the beginning of this year. We ran through all, then we did the Alien versus the Thing. We're gonna do this. What's it gonna be? Who knows? But here I am.
Yeah.
Then it begins, and it's it's the fucking Zillennial version, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And I had seen the trailer, and I wasn't that like enthusiastic based on the trailer. But one of the things that I really like, and then actually let me back it up, because the question going into it, like probably for most people who are listening to this and us, is like, is this just a fucking cash grab, right? And does it feel like
that's a fair question? That's a fair question.
Of course. I felt, as I started watching it, it felt like a fan making a film instead of necessarily a studio.
Yeah.
It felt like when you watch or you hear Villeneuve talk about Dune, and he's like all about it, and it's like, okay, however you feel about Dune, and we've done the Dune thing, like we've done that. This guy's into it. I had heard that he had done the 2013 or 14 or whatever it is, Evil Dead. I haven't seen it. That I haven't seen yet, so I can't really put that into it. But I'm curious. I'm interested. But as I got into it, it actually, because the first question is it a cash grab? The second one is, do we really need another fucking Alien film? Do we need that? Do we need it? I would say no. Beyond fucking like probably the first three, I don't think we need another one. Prometheus aside.
Yeah.
But it felt like an interesting view of something that's of the phenomenon happening, or the phenomena plural happening in another part of that world almost simultaneously, rather than just seeing an addition to the series. So that's what it felt like to me. It was just like, oh, like this is what's happening over here versus this is what's happening. Even though, I mean, this is actually not at the same time. It's sequential. It's after the first film. So it's like, okay, like I'm here. But then in the beginning of the film, there's this like labor mining camp, this Weyland-Yutani planet or whatever. And it had this like Eastern European brutalist doomer, they call it, aesthetic. And I was like really interested in that world, and really interested in that aspect of how this corporation fucks everyone over, and there was a different motivation now for these characters, because typically we've seen it's kind of like, all right, well, truckers in space, soldiers in space. Now, I mean, this one is like runaways or escapees in space, but of all of them, they seem to be one of the most motivated groups, because they're trying to get away rather than just being like on some scientific expedition type of shit, which we've already seen. So that was cool. The effects I thought were cool. Seeing things that were actual, that look like models, that was cool. A likable android was different. And then we'll get into that, but ultimately the way he has these different operating systems, so depending on the operating system, that's how he behaves. So it's kind of like the underdog, and then the one it's kind of like, oh, now is he going to be like this avenging angel? Like, is he going to fucking like? And I liked both of them, and I liked the guy's performance.
Yeah,
I thought he was great.
I thought he was exceptional, but I thought he was. I mean, it was. Sometimes when you have something that stands out like that, it makes everything else look bad. Sometimes it elevates it, but his performance in it is so good, and I mean, it's worth seeing just for him. The rest of the movie pales in comparison, and because it's something where you start to feel this guy deserves a better movie. This guy definitely deserves a better Alien film.
That's hold that thought. Yeah. Let me just kind of run through, and then we can get into, because I want to go point by point through some of these problems that you had, and I don't want to like necessarily debate you on them, because this is a very, for this instance, I think your experience was very personal, because I think part of it, like, I think part of your experience was also due to the fucking, like, the time you were totally tired. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things were probably exacerbated by all that. Obviously, the Ian Holm bring back thing was interesting to me.
Oh, I hated that, but we'll go into it.
I thought it was interesting to see it. It was interesting to kind of like, okay, it gives it, to me, it gave it like a contemporaneous feel to the other one, the original. But the thing that really, the thing that most of all kind of won me over, aside from like the early in the film doomer aesthetic, and then the, like you say, the motherboards and the original look, was the fact that you could say, okay, well, all these Alien films are going to be paint by numbers, because it's kind of like stumble into the place, stumble into these fucking aliens, run away, they chase you, people die, ultimately the girl lives. That's it. That's fucking it. But I was really surprised by how tense I felt throughout. Right. And I was on the edge of my fucking seat in that, and I was very surprised by that, because I did not expect to be, because I haven't felt that tense watching I don't think I felt this tense watching an Alien film since probably like the original film. Wow. I didn't feel tense like that watching Aliens, because it was a different film. I think that it's a different film. Yeah. It's more, it's an action thing, and you want to see them fighting. The third one, the Fincher one, it was more like taking it all in.
Plus we talked about the Fincher film being compromised. So, yes. You're in your own head watching that. I can't remember what it was like to see it the first time. All I can remember now is how knowing Fincher, the director that he is after Fight Club 7, the visionary that he is in cinema, you can't help but watch that movie playing an alternate version of the movie in your head. Sure. And that's part of the problem with that, with comparing it to that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. The fourth one, Jean-Pierre Jeuneau's.
So, I mean, yeah, the fourth one was like, the fourth one was the fucking fourth one, and it was just like one of those ones that you watch, but it's not like, and then the prequels is just fucking trying to make sense and make those logical leaps in terms of like, okay, so where did this shit come from? Like, okay, so did David create this, or did he recreate it? Did he reverse engineer it? Like, okay, what? Whereas this one was just kind of, yes, it was derivative.
Yeah.
Again, I think they're all fucking derivative, except for the first one. It was derivative, but it really, and again, this is personal, and this kind of goes into what we're going to end up talking about when we've had the conversation, but when we release the Drag Me to Hell film, the Drag Me to Hell episode, it's kind of like the set and the setting, the way they talk about when you take like psychedelics. It's kind of like, what's your mindset and what's the setting? I was in this movie like going like, I'm doing pretty well this year. Like, I had a good time in Furiosa, which complete opposite of what you're thinking, because you're like, fuck, Furiosa was good, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, I had a good time with Furiosa. I had a good time with The Fall Guy. I'm having a good time with this. I'm watching all these people die. Some of them, like, more than others, I want them to fucking die. And do I really need does it really need to be more than just this? After we have the Alien film, the original, the Alien, we have that. No one can take that away. So it was kind of like, I was pleasantly fucking surprised. Is this a great film? Is it? I think it's a good film. I think it's a well-made film. Is it a great film? No, the original was a great film. You want to fucking see a great film? Watch the original. That's a great film. This is a good film, and I think, I mean, how people are gonna feel about it is that's on them. I don't know. Is it a bad film that I had a good time in? I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's really well edited, really well paced. If you have issues with the dialogue, I mean, I think there's too much exposition in it. I think that's true. Feeling that I guess you're saying that the kids look fucking pretty, and then they're like, you just put dirt on them. Yeah. I don't know. I just fucking Zoomers, you know. Yeah. Kill the Zoomers. I don't know, but I was very, very surprised at how fucking like edge of my seat I was, and then it kept increasing and increasing, and I was aware of that, and still enjoying the fact that I was being manipulated emotionally, and it was working, and I completely bought into it, and I went for the ride, and I was like, okay, I had a good time. Do we need to see a Romulus Part 2 or whatever? Are they going to turn this into another thing? I don't know, but I haven't seen Evil Dead 2, so I can't compare what he does when he's doing that kind of shit, when he's redoing or reworking stuff. I don't know. I'd have to see it in order to get a more full picture, because what's the difference between him redoing Evil Dead and him doing a version of this?
I mean, with him redoing Evil Dead, it's kind of interesting because you have two different versions that you can do. Because Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are basically the same movie,
right?
But with a completely different bent. I mean, it's wild how they can be two. You sent me a clip, a trailer of The Silence of the Lambs as a rom-com.
Yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious because it's really telling how things can change by just the manipulation of cuts, the editing, the background that you put on it, the music, everything. It really goes to show you how volatile raw footage can be, because you can go in a number of different directions with it. I mean, obviously, you can't make the entire film. You couldn't make the entire film Silence of the Lambs into a rom-com.
Yeah.
You couldn't, but...
When Starling paid off more than she could chew. The romantic movie of the year.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it.
Yeah.
It was a good time. That was great. What he did with the original Evil Dead was he amped up. Basically, he remade. He remade a Z quality movie, a low budget, independent, nothing movie that kind of escaped drive-in hell, that escaped grindhouse hell, basically is what I should say, to become this juggernaut. And he redid that with better cinematic technology. Is it better than Raimi's film? No, but is it a good interpretation of it? I think so. I thought it was fun. I thought it was ridiculous. Part of the first film's charm is its amateurishness, but there's a style to it that was great. I mean, I guess the best way you can describe it is I don't remember who. There was a director in the mid-2000s who was remaking. I think Michael Bay was producing remakes of both Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th. So they were remaking these films that we grew up with that were very amateurish, and And they were doing them with greater style. If you look at the new Chainsaw film, the one with Jessica Biel, R. Lee Ermey, that came out like a decade ago, it looks aesthetically so much better than Tobe Hooper's film. But part of the charm of what Tobe Hooper did was that shit looked real.
Mm-hmm.
That looked like a snuff film. That looked horrible. That had a really disgusting feel to it. You felt dirty watching it, and you want that. Evil Dead feels the same way. So Alvarez's take on it was just a little bit. It was cleaner, and it felt more like a professional movie. The tension was there, and it was good. I still prefer Raimi's film, but at the very least, what Alvarez's remake was, it was almost like, oh, this is a calling card. This is like a calling card of what this guy is capable of. So given the opportunity, he can do something pretty good. I dare say great, given the right material. Now, I've seen what he does with this material, which is basically, it's just a rehash of what has come before it. But I'm with you. If they had kept it on that mining planet, that would have been a much better film. To see the creatures, to see the xenomorphs come into that place, and the miners get attacked, and so now you could make those parallel comparisons between the battle against the xenomorphs, each other, and Weyland Yutani all coming down on them at the same time. And maybe it would have been a heavy-handed statement about capitalism, but it would have been more. It would have been a more. It would have been a more truthful and telling story than what we got here. This is paint by numbers. This is obvious to me. I was bored with it, and if. And I see what you're saying when you say I might have been set up with a bad day to not enjoy this film, but you could also argue from the other perspective that if it had been a good film, or at least something that I liked, this would have dragged me out of whatever funk that I was in.
That's true.
That's
we're getting ahead of ourselves because this is going to come out. This conversation is going to happen before the conversation of in terms of how people are going to hear it. So I'm going to play with timelines right now. In keeping with this shit, in a future conversation that we've already had.
Yeah.
You talk about Drag Me to Hell, and you're like, some movies, you got to see them in the right setting, you got to see them with an audience, you got to see them with this, you got to see them with that, and blah, blah, blah. And I agree with you. I'm making it sound like I don't fucking, like, yeah, but I do agree with you. I get it. So it's kind of like, well, you could make the argument that you made against this film, I could just as easily make against, you can make it against any film. If a film is good enough, it doesn't fucking matter the setting. And I kind of did say that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like there are both sides to it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go as far as to say that this is this fucking masterpiece and this and this and that. I'm just saying that my main reaction to this film is one of surprise because maybe I had lower expectations and the result exceeded them.
That certainly
maybe you had higher
well.
ones
Yeah.
and it fell below. I don't know. I don't know. So let's go through some of these. You call them mistakes and problems. Let's go through some of them and pick them apart a little bit. Okay.
I mean, there seems to be a very obvious, and it's weird because I like diversity in films. I like a change up. I don't like to just see an obviously straight white cast, but sometimes it feels like it's manufactured, and I didn't think it was.
Is that what it felt like to you? To me, but I'm a cynic. So I mean, you could argue. Somebody listening to this could argue. Just a Republican. I'm just kidding.
No, but you could make the argument. Somebody listened to us. Well, you can't be fucking satisfied, and it's probably true because there are nuances to it. Like, I mean,
You're fucking Goldilocks.
Yeah, it's just it's. I'm sorry. It just when it feels, to me at least, when it feels labored and it feels tacked on and obviously designed to cover the bases, it's problematic. And that's what's here with this. It's a Benetton. Remember the old Benetton ads where, you know, we're all together, we're one species, we're one race, the human race. That's kind of the feeling that I get that they're trying to push. And it's a 20th Century Fox Disney collaboration that's being pushed, and all of that plays into it. So the cynic in me is already cynical and pessimistic and fucking untrusting of the art of it. Because you also got to remember, this is no longer that small director coming out of advertising that nobody has ever heard of. This is a fucking franchise. This is a $1 billion franchise that they're not willing to take chances with the way they once did. A lot of times that shit comes out and it's able to change the vocabulary because nobody was expecting anything out of it. At this point, we're talking about 4 main films, 2 prequels, 2 offshoot Alien versus Predator films, and now this thing that comes somewhere in the middle of Alien and Aliens. Pardon me.
So this is kind of like the Rogue One of the fucking Star Wars.
Yeah, and it seems to me very much like, let's cover the bases, and I don't like that in my filmmaking. I think it's and then to take into account that they're all young. I'm just glad nobody really took off their shirts, because I was waiting for that. I was waiting for this, you know. Oh yeah, these well-toned, muscled, and you know they're gonna throw fucking oil on them all of a sudden, and it's gonna be that. I mean, I was looking. I at a certain at a certain point, I thought it was gonna turn into
young people of color. You sound like fucking. You sound vaguely like something I've seen on TV.
Do I? Well, you didn't. I'm surprised that you didn't feel at some point it was going to turn into like a Twilight thing. That's what I was. Once I started really digging into it, you didn't. I did.
No,
that's
I
that bothered me.
And it's interesting because those films like Twilight, the fucking Jennifer Lawrence film, what is it called?
The Hunger Games. Yeah.
The Hunger Games, like those felt very like millennial to me. Yeah. Whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
I quickly was like, oh, these are fucking like, this is a millennial vampire movie. This is a millennial. I jokingly said earlier about Zillennial. I don't know that I don't even know if like what that would look like in terms of a Zillennial film. At the same time, I didn't feel that it was the United Colors of fucking Alien, like the way you're describing it as a Bennington campaign. I wasn't like, oh, here we go. The fucking Xenomorph is going to tell us its fucking pronouns. Like, I didn't come from that right-winger fucking, like, anti-woke, anti-whatever, up in arms kind of exaggerated take. The radical left Alien film, you know what I mean? Like, well,
don't get me wrong. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. It could have been more in your face. It could have been way more in your face. And I mean,
maybe had it been that more on the mining camp, like you say, maybe then it would have been. But I didn't take the diversity. I think I took the diversity of the film for granted. I didn't think. I didn't think that it was because then you have to. The other extreme is you're going like. I mean, one extreme is like, okay, well, we have to try to represent everyone, which obviously you can't, right?
No.
Then the other extreme is like, well, in order to keep the integrity of the chronology and blah blah blah, the chronology of I mean not the chronology, but the times, not the chronology, but in terms of the integrity of the, in the same way that chronologically you have to keep the integrity of the look, like the technology of within the story. Well, we also have to make it seem like it would have been shot in the 80s, so it does have to be all white people with the one black guy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, on some level, some people are going to say, well, it basically is all white people with one black guy. You know what I mean? Like, you can spin it any fucking kind of way you want. I didn't see that as any kind of statement. I didn't see that as any kind of like built into the program. I think that's like a fucking, like a Fox News hot take. Like, I don't buy it. I mean, you saw that, you thought of it, I think because of the cynicism of like, oh, are they trying to do this?
Well, you got to understand also is that once
old men were not represented in this film, you have a problem with that.
No, Ash was there. Ash was there. No, what I'm talking about, though, when you have once you start having a problem with a film, though, and this is like anything, with a book or a song, you start picking it apart and you start finding more, and you know, admittedly, you start exaggerating the problems that you have with it. So, if this film had grabbed a hold of me tension-wise the way it did you, I would have been dismissive of that. I would have said, no, fuck that. I'm having a good time, and I'm, you know, maybe that doesn't enter my mind, or maybe I'm dismissive of it as like, well, everything else is working, so let me ignore that. You know, I mean, I've done that in other films where I'm like, well, you know, I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon is basically a white guilt film, but I think it's exceptionally well made and telling a good story. And maybe I have a prejudice towards critiquing Scorsese. I don't know. There's always a possibility of that. But when something is well done, it's easier to overlook what is otherwise obvious. With this, all it really had going for it was two things: the production design and the Jonathan, what's his name? David Johnson as Andy. I mean, I thought that performance was exceptional, but also badly written, because why start the film out with him being somewhat, what I thought was semi-retarded, maybe? Like, and I know that's, I know that's a word that is not, I'm going back to the original. I'm not saying retard. What I'm saying is the clinical mental retardation, you know, where he's slow, where he's,
yeah, we get it.
Yeah. Why would you have a character that is a synthetic, an android, and not have them? Why would anybody build a synthetic that is more of a hindrance than a help to the character? That didn't make sense to me. So that there is such a striking transformation when he's rebooted. That's when the character. I mean, watching the first 20 minutes of it and the dad jokes and the childlike quality of it, I was like, oh fuck, this is going to be annoying for fucking 2 hours. But when he takes on the Ash qualities, I guess that understanding of what they're dealing with, it becomes a much more exciting film, and it becomes it is a saving grace. And I think he does an exceptional job. He is the thing that is worth watching. I'm glad I saw this movie just for his performance, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else he does in whatever other films that he appears in later on. But it really is the best thing about a bad movie. And just overall, everything, I don't know, when you start, I guess, This is the definition of a slippery slope. Once you start sliding, you're not getting back up that hill. It's once they lose you, once you start having problems with it, once you start seeing the problems in the storytelling, the acting, so by the time we get to this fucking creature at the end that didn't work that didn't work in Junot's film. Why the fuck would they go back to that? It was laughable, it was embarrassing, it was badly done, and I hated that. At that point I was checked out with the return of the Ash duplicate. But also, and here's a problem with the storytelling, and I don't know if you felt the same way, I had an idea of what this film was in the sense of the timeline. In between Alien, after Alien, before Aliens. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that body lying on the ground, I was like, that's fucking Ash. That's Ian Holm. But now something didn't register because these two films don't exist together in the same way, because I started thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute, they burned him. They knocked his head off. They burned him. And I'm like, are they retrofitting? Are they pulling a fucking Tarantino where they're going to retrofit the story that came before? And so it's distracting. It's distracting in the sense that you're trying to figure out what exactly it is you're watching and how it fits into the canon of, to the timeline. And it took me a while to figure out, no, dumbass, he's a fucking android. So they made numerous Ashes. And this one was called Rook or something?
Yeah, Rook.
Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, the model is the same.
The model,
like the appearance is the same, but it's just a different, it's a different individual one.
Yeah. But then it was also badly done because it was so obviously not, I have a problem with them doing this, first of all, because I think I don't like the idea of bringing an actor back to life for two reasons. Number one, you don't have the permission of the actor, regardless of whether or not you have the permission of the estate of the actor, the family, the children, the wife, whoever. But also, now you have a performance that's being attributed to Ian Holm that he would not have given.
Well, yeah, it's impossible for him to have given that. He's dead.
Exactly, he's dead. So this is something that hangs on him. Yeah. Now if you're seeing this is your introduction to Ian Holm, you're going to be dismissive of The Sweet Hereafter. You're going to be dismissive of Time Bandits, Brazil, a lot of the great work that he has done in other films, because this is so badly done. I thought this was incredibly badly done. I'm kidding. Such a contrarian prick. But that was the point where I finally checked out. But also, okay, and here's another fucking problem. Mm-hmm. You create a mythology of the Xenomorph over 9 films, over 8 films before this, and now you're going to introduce this idea that they see by heat? No, fuck that. Now you're turning it into the Predator.
Oh, well, that's not exactly what he said, but
that was part of it, though, right?
So the face hugger, according to what they believe and what seemed to be the case in terms of the film, is that like part of the way they find you is by body heat, like in a room, and that's never been explained. It's always been like they just fucking seem to like go towards you and just fucking attack you.
Yeah.
So that specific thing for this movie doesn't seem like it goes against the whole fucking mythology of it, because it's like, what do we know about the face huggers? Not much. They just fucking jump at your face and fucking implant their seed in you. Like, okay, so that doesn't, to me, I don't feel like this is such a fucking betrayal that they would say that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you're making it more than what it is now for what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's like, that's what I'm saying is it's fucking convenient. This shit is convenient. You're making shit up, and I just
have that scene.
Yeah, and I didn't like it. I felt that was like, over 9 films. Now this comes out. I mean, you can make the argument they're going to discover more and more about the species, the more and more that they dedicate to understanding it. But it seems to me that Sigourney Weaver Ripley would have figured that out by the second film. The scientists would have figured it out. It just seems to come. It's just too fucking convenient for me. And like I said, once you've slipped, you're falling off that slope, and it's impossible to. It's really impossible. Once you give up on a movie, it's really impossible for a movie to win you back.
I think to me it makes sense, given that if that Rook character was at that space station conducting his own like research, and the intention was to take those specimens back to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, like he would have found out more shit. Now, how would that information have gotten to Ripley, like in the future films? Not necessarily. So it makes sense to me that like he could have figured that out, and that. Yeah,
but you also remember by the fourth film, and now we're getting into nerd shit. By the fourth film, she was a hybrid of one of those things.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just doesn't play for me, and to just come out all of a sudden like, oh shit, we got to get from point A to point B. Well, let's just make some shit up. Let's just do it. I mean, let's just.
I mean, every script is that.
Every script is that.
Does it work? The question is, does it work? Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't work because it fucks with the mythology of the film. It fucks with the whole idea of what these things are and what they're capable of and what they can do. And it's like, when you start.
I mean, at that point, get into the argument of. I'm not saying get into it now. I'm just saying, like, does it keep you awake at night? Asking, like, does the Xenomorph pre-exist David, or did David fucking create them through his experiments? Get on those Reddit arguments.
Well, see that was an interesting argument in Prometheus and Covenant, and what could have been an interesting thing here. What they were doing was this idea of, because the whole idea was of the underlying idea of the first, second, third film was always, and the fourth film as well, was this weaponization of the Xenomorph. This film takes in a certain different direction in the evolution of man and how it can be assisted by a combination of the Xenomorph. I like that as an idea, but either there wasn't time to really explore it, or there wasn't the imagination necessary to really have it flower. So there were ideas here that I thought were interesting, and they were just kind of left on the table. And that's another thing. It's like, there's, like I've always said, you can't judge the movie that you wish you had seen. You can only judge the movie that you are seeing. But that's different. And here I'm changing the mythology. It's different when the movie that it could have been is at least alluded to. And you're thinking to yourself, that could have been better. It could have been better on the mining. The Xenomorphs on the mining planet would have been more interesting. The Xenomorphs spliced with humans would have been more interesting. A lot of shit would have been better had they had the balls or the scientific curiosity to take the film into a different direction. As it is, it's just your standard monster film. And we've seen that, and we've seen it done better. Each one of the first three films is better than this one. This one is a little bit more on par with Alien Resurrection, except that Alien Resurrection had Sigourney Weaver, who I said at least, gave a damn good performance in that film. But this is true. So this fails for me.
Yeah, I mean, a group of fucking Zillennials working on a mining planet, indentured servitude. They want to escape. They want to get to the space station so they can steal the cryo chambers, so they can sleep on their way to this other planet, Ivaga. because they're never going to get off the fucking work camp planet.
Yeah, there was a cute little
they're
catch-22 thing there going on, you know. Oh no, now you need 24,000 hours. It's like, wow, okay, cocksuckers.
Wait, what?
She was ready to get off the fucking planet right at the get. She had hit her 12,000. And she goes and she talks to that DMV bitch.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, no, it's 24,000 now. So that's catch-22. Right. That's, no, you got, you know, the number of missions have been up to 28, to 43, to 61, you know, that kind of shit. But it's very bureaucratic, and it's very much in keeping with what, yeah. And I think one of the things that really sells these stories is the anti-capitalist bent that is running throughout the series, where it's like, you know, the selfishness of it. But here
you're a radical leftist.
Yeah, well, you can play the game however the pitch is thrown.
You want it both ways, you know.
I did. I believe in the people. Okay, I just don't like it thrown in my face as
it should have been Robert Duvall.
Oh, yeah,
Robert Duvall. Fucking Harvey Keitel, he gets naked, and that's they don't attack him when he gets naked.
You telling me that wouldn't have been a better movie? It'd be a better movie, you know.
I don't know.
Get those face tattoos on him, and you know, have him have a good time. It's a fucking better movie. This is I don't know, man. I just think that when there's
assisted living facility attacked by aliens.
Nah, you can make them young again. The problem here is, I think when you have this much
with a walker, has the tennis balls on the bottom.
Why wouldn't that be something fun? They have to age. I think the fact of the matter is that you look at something like this, and I don't know. I believe that there's too much money on the table. There's too much at stake for them to take the chances necessary to make this an interesting and challenging film. So you're just going to fall back on the old standards of the monster in the dark. But it's been done, and it's been done better. I'm happy for you that you could enjoy this in the way you did. But as I watched it, I just felt this is a letdown, and it's not going to get better. And as it got progressively worse, it became more of an ideal. And to tell you the truth, I really got tired of all the little jokes that Alvarez had placed in the film that were basically callbacks and what they call Easter eggs to the original series. Yeah, like, that shit started to get annoying.
Calls her a bitch and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, come on. I mean, you know, so.
Well, at that point, it's fan fiction. It's a fan fiction.
Yeah, but it betrays the integrity of the story. You know, make the fucking movie.
It's too aware of itself.
It's way too aware of itself, but doing it in such a way as to a wink and a nod. Yeah, and I don't like that.
We can laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, it's kind of like, look, James Cameron, like, in the 80s, I'm down, you know?
Yeah.
But by that same token, it's kind of like, we'll just cut away everything and just keep the first one. If you really want to keep the integrity because it's all paint by numbers, well, they're all fucking they're all derivative of the first one.
I don't know, because I think there's something to be said about integrating certain human aspects into each story. So, you know how, like, with Romero, you have civil rights, then you have consumerism, then you have the military-industrial complex, you have class.
Different thematic kind of critiques of an era,
It's less pronounced with the Aliens film, but it's there. So you have the original film that is a monster in the dark, 10 Little Indians type of story. Then you go into an allegory on the Vietnam War, which was much fresher back then in '86. And you got to also remember that was around the time of Full Metal Jacket, Platoon,
Sure.
shortly after Apocalypse. I mean, you know, 7 or 8 years after Apocalypse. I mean, the wounds of Vietnam were still very much open in American society. So that's a statement against that. Then you're starting to talk about religion in a very compromised and murky presentation.
And the prison industrial complex.
Exactly.
Basically.
All of that. I mean, so the story of the Xenomorph itself and what it does and all of that is overpowering, but those other stories are there. And that's what this could have been. And instead, this is just a paint-by-numbers chase film. So you don't...
This is actually about Zillennials and student debt. And them trying to escape to be influencers on this planet. Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we can make that stretch, but I'm like, well, I mean, aren't we all just fucking slaves of Weyland-Yutani, you know?
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. Weyland-Yutani has been this force over 4.5 decades of cinema between this and Blade Runner, and you know, this is a statement. This is a fucking statement about capitalism. And if you're going to go up, you know, like they say, if you're going to go up to the fucking bell, ring the motherfucker, okay? Don't dance around it. Don't play near it. They allude to shit, but they don't talk about true wage slavery in this film the way they should. I want to know more about these people. That's the thing. It's like Yaphet Kotto, Harry Dean, Veronica Cartwright, Tom Skerritt, Hurt. All of these people, they have lives that are lived, and you could see it in their faces. And, you know, Sigourney Weaver was young in that first film. She was only like 23, 24 maybe. No, I mean, she might have been...
Just them putting up... I was waiting for her to take her shirt off because she was just so pretty, dirtied up, you know?
Yeah, well...
The young fucking Gen Xer, or whatever the fuck she is, you know?
I just didn't... So the thing about it is I just didn't give a shit about these characters, whether or not... I didn't care about whether or not they lived or died. But I wasn't impressed in how the Xenomorphs were moving, or... There was nothing new to this. That's the thing about the Alien films. Is like after 9 films, there has to be some kind of new take on it. Can you really sit there and tell me that there was something that this film brought to it that was new and unique to the series? Whatever problems Fincher had in realizing his vision in the 3rd film, he still had Charles Dance, Sigourney Weaver, and Charles S. Dutton.
Oh yeah.
So that elevates it.
Sure.
That just fucking elevates it. Nowhere in this film you got one guy. You got one guy carrying this film, and it's just not enough for me. Just fucking not.
I just looked up. Sigourney Weaver is a baby boomer, so she's
like 70 now. Yeah.
She's so she was born in 49, so she was like 30-ish for the first one.
Yeah.
The first one is what?
Yeah.
79, 80?
This is the first one was 79. So 41.
She's like 30.
Yeah, she was 30. I mean, relatively young. So, I mean, these guys are in their early 20s, and it's like, I mean, it makes a difference. You know, and none of them look like real workers. They don't look like real workers to me.
You gotta give them a fucking chance.
What's that?
You gotta give them a goddamn chance. You gotta give young people a chance.
I don't have to give anybody a chance when I'm paying my fucking $15. Fuck that. You bring it. Their job is to create something that I want to watch.
No, but you gotta give them a chance to get hired. It's not like, Who the fuck wants to watch a story about high schoolers? Fuck them. They should be 50 and playing high schoolers.
Well, it was interesting though because well, I was thinking, what if they had thrown in a John Hughes quality to this film? What if this was the Breakfast Club in fucking space? That would have been better than this shit. As horrible as that sounds, it would have been better than this. I'm sorry. Give me fucking Judd Nelson in that stupid jacket of his walking around like he's a tough guy. Fuck you, you're a tough guy. You ain't shit.
Saying Aliens Fire? Yeah, I don't know about that.
Bring that motherfucker. I'm sorry.
Molly Ringwald fucking giving birth to a fucking hybrid Spicoli.
Come on, you're telling me that when you watched that and that happened and you saw what it was becoming, you didn't just go like, "Oh my god, okay, I'm done." You were still sold. You were still sold out at that point.
So fucking. It was a completely just kind of it was like being on an amusement park ride, and you're just going with it. I was not in my head. I was not complete different. Like it's like we reversed. Like watching Drag Me to Hell, I was just kind of like, this, I'm telling you, I was very, very pleasantly surprised.
I'm happy for you. Don't get me wrong.
Is it going to stand the test of time?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I'm going to go back to that again and again and again.
Yeah.
I'm cool with the first one, and I mean, obviously the second one is a classic. The third one, like, for all its problems, visually there are certain things I like about it. I like that. There are things that I remember at that time in my life where I'm just kind of like Fincher, like, the look of it, the aesthetic, all of these things coming together. The fourth one, disappointment. Prometheus, kind of a little bit of this and a little bit of that for both of those, Covenant and Prometheus. This one is just, I had a fun time with it. I think it's a well-made film for what it is. Do I think that it has all these problems? Like a lot of the problems you're mentioning, sure. I mean, like I don't see all of the ageist fucking takes there. But maybe it's also an interesting, which is sad. Maybe it's an interesting introduction for people to fucking go back and look at the original. Again, that's sad.
Yeah.
That they need that. But kind of like I said earlier, it's maybe the Rogue One of the Star Wars. It's like Rogue One is this amazing. I mean, Star Wars on any level, how amazing are they? That depends on who you're asking. But it's like a little side fucking project, a little bit of fan fiction. I thought the tension was high. You did it. We had different takes on it. Fucking same movie, different experiences. It's gonna happen. Am I upset that it got made? No. Does it really change anything? I don't think so.
Well, that's an interesting thing to say. It's like, we start to wonder, does a new film destroy the power of the original films? Like there's this thing going around the internet right now because, as much as everybody loves Quentin Tarantino and how we feel about it, Quentin Tarantino.
I know I'm saying, but like, how relevant is Quentin Tarantino? You know what I mean? Like at this point, you know what I mean?
No, still people still love the movies and they're excited about that last film, but there's some kind of not uproar, but it's making news because he went on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast and he was talking about Toy Story, and he'll never see Toy Story 4 because why ruin it? Because the third film was beautiful. And I will say this much. Toy Story 3 is about the best ending of a series as you can imagine. They really shouldn't have made the fourth film. The fourth film is a good film. It's a fun film. It's sweet. And it hits the notes that a Pixar film has been known to go after. But that third film ended so beautifully and so powerfully that it wasn't necessary to go back to that story. It should have been left alone. But the fact that that film exists, the fact that The Godfather 3 exists, does that negate what has come before it? I don't think so. I don't think that I don't think that a sequel, years later, immediately after, good or bad, affects what has come before it. I don't buy into that. For me, I can still love a movie regardless of whether or not the follow-up is either bad or unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I'm with you on that.
See, so for me, this film in no way, this is not, I'm not going to watch this film and then next month throw on the Ridley Scott original or the James Cameron or the Fincher film. I'm not going to watch those films and be like, oh, Fede Alvarez fucked this whole thing up for me. That's not going to happen. Those films still have the power that they once did. And they're still as great as they once were. And they don't lose anything because of it. So I just think this shit was unnecessary and a waste. If there's any kind of a problem that I have with it getting made is that it means something else of quality didn't get made. But you could also argue something else worse could have been made. I mean,
exactly.
movie making is it's a fucking crapshoot. You never know what you're going to get. You can have the greatest idea in the world and a great script, and they fuck the whole thing up completely. I'm tired of reboots and remakes, but every once in a while you get a Carpenter's The Thing. It doesn't happen often, but is it worth gambling in order to do so? Probably.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
At this point, though, in 2024, 45 years after the original film, is there anything new that can be said in this mythology, in this story, that's going to advance what we know about the Xenomorphs, what we know about human beings? Is there anything that they can do that's going to equal what has come before? I don't see that happening, and I don't see it happening because the story, number one, the story has been told. Number two, there's too much money involved to take the chances necessary to make something innovative and new. I hope this is the last film. I hope they don't do anything else. It's done. As far as I'm concerned, this shit is done, and it's unnecessary. And anything that I go in to see after this, I will probably go into it with a pessimistic attitude that will ultimately be an uphill battle for whatever film I'm watching.
I mean, I think on the whole experience of watching films, I think is becoming that for you.
As much as I hate to admit it, yeah, I think it is. I think I'm going back to I'm turning into that old fuck who's everything new sucks and everything. But I mean, how is that not
turning into like that?
Yeah, but I still love Furiosa. I'm still glad that I saw it twice in a movie theater. I'm going to watch it again on Max. I'm looking forward to other things. I'm looking for Nosferatu. If it weren't Robert Eggers, I don't know if I'd be interested.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a story that's been told twice before, and the story of Dracula has been told how many fucking times? What new can be brought to this story? With Eggers, I'm interested in finding out. I'm excited. Now, he has a fucking uphill battle. Mm-hmm. That movie, I'm not going to cut him any slack. It might suck, but
it's going to be. I'm looking for more historical references. I'm looking for more production value, like really like setting, like the setting and having the clothes be correct, and like I'm looking for that stuff with this.
I'm also looking forward to Willem Dafoe as a Van Helsing character.
Yeah,
Willem Dafoe is as the hero and not the creepy vampire. That's really interesting to me. I'm sorry,
hero.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything after the original Alien has been a drop off.
Yeah, but
at
least, the very least, they were interesting takes on an original idea, and they took it in different directions, and they played with it. And as far as the prequels are concerned, I really did like, and those were probably the iffiest ones to go with, and I think Ridley Scott did a wonderful job of creating those, and I think it was in part because there were always characters that you cared about, or at least were interested in. I really wanted to see more of Charles S. Dutton. I wanted to see more of Fassbender. I wanted to see more of Bean and Lance Henriksen and all Yaphet, Harry Dean, all of these characters. They were relatable. Whether you like them as people or not, that doesn't matter. Were you interested in the story? I can't say that about this film. I didn't care. And, the heroism didn't matter. The character who hated Andy didn't matter. At a certain point, I was just like, well, let's see if they kill things cool. And they couldn't even do that.
There was no Jason slamming them into a tree.
That sleeping bag stunt is a good time. Love that.
So, spoiler alert. You know what we do. Watch it, see how you feel, and keep your opinions to yourself. buymeacoffee.com/WatchRickRamos. This one goes to none other than Mr. Cornelius Burrows. Wherever you are, however you are, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, all.